There are two kinds of people in this world: those who learn that their needs matter, and those who learned too early, too painfully, that their needs are a burden. The latter grow up to become the quiet rescuers, the ones who apologize first, the ones who stretch themselves thin to keep others comfortable. They become the people pleasers. Not because they are weak, not because they just want to be nice, but because once upon a time nobody protected them. People pleasing is rarely a personality trait. It is a survival strategy. It is a language a child learns when the adults around them speak only in demands, criticism, dismissiveness, or chaos. It is the instinct of someone who learned that staying small keeps the environment stable, that silence prevents explosions, and that making yourself useful might earn the affection, attention, or safety you couldn't get otherwise. Most people pleasers don't realize that they are carrying a wound. They simply believe they are the easy ones, the calm ones, the helpers. But beneath that gentle exterior is a very old truth. At a critical moment in life, nobody stepped in to protect them, so they learned to protect everyone else instead. This piece is dedicated to the quiet warriors who learned to smile through their own pain, to the ones who kept peace in environments where peace was never given to them, to the people who lost themselves in order to be loved. This is your story, and this is why you learned to please. You were taught that love was conditional. A child's first understanding of love is not philosophical. It is practical. Love is what you experience in your environment. For some, love is stability, warmth, attention, patience. For others, love is inconsistent affection mixed with criticism, emotional distance, or unpredictable reactions. If you grew up in a home where love depended on your behavior, being quiet, being helpful, being obedient, your brain formed its first rule. If I want love, I must earn it. But children do not have the emotional or cognitive maturity to understand that their parents' ability to show love has nothing to do with their worth. So they build a world that makes sense to them. If I am good, things will be calm. If I am good, I won't be yelled at. If I am good, they won't leave. If I am good, they will love me. The child becomes hyper-aware, sensitive, overly responsible. They learn to notice the tone of voice, the shifting moods, the small cues that hint at danger. They turn into tiny emotional barometers. And without knowing it, they begin to perform. Not for praise, not for joy, but for safety. This is the seed of people-pleasing. You were forced to grow up too quickly. Many people-pleasers were not allowed to simply be children. They became the emotional caretakers of their parents, soothing them, calming them, comforting them, taking responsibility for things far beyond their age. They were the ones who took care of siblings, mediated arguments, avoided triggering a parent, hid their feelings to keep the peace, or carried guilt when the adults acted out. They became the mature one, the little adult, the responsible one. Adults praised them for being so good, but that goodness was just a mask, a coping mechanism. Underneath was a child silently screaming, "Why doesn't anyone take care of me?" But that scream never reached anyone's ears. Not because the child was unheard, but because they learned not to speak. When a child grows up in a world where the adults are emotionally unavailable or unstable, they learn that being invisible is safer than having needs. To need nothing becomes a form of protection. And so, they grow into adults who feel guilty whenever they ask for anything. You were blamed for your emotions. People pleasers often had their emotions invalidated as children. Stop crying, you're too sensitive. Don't be dramatic. Why are you upset about that? It's nothing. You're making things harder. You're overreacting. Over time, they internalize one harmful message. My feelings are wrong. To ensure acceptance and avoid conflict, they silence their emotions. They learn to hide their anger because it was punished. They swallow their sadness because it was dismissed. They erase their needs because they were treated as an inconvenience. And so they grow into adults who smile when they are hurting, say it's okay even when it's not, prioritize others at the expense of themselves, apologize for existing, fear disappointing people, avoid expressing discomfort, and secretly resent the world for demanding so much from them. This suppression may create the illusion of peace, but it builds an emotional volcano. Pressure rises in silence until one day it erupts as burnout, bitterness, or emotional shutdown. People-pleasing is self-abandonment disguised as kindness. You confused control with safety. Some people pleasers were raised around unpredictability, anger, alcohol, chaos, instability, or emotional volatility. They learned to manage the environment as a way to prevent conflict. They became experts at predicting reactions, smoothing tension, calming others, anticipating others' needs, avoiding anything that could cause upset. This is not care, it is hypervigilance. It is the mind of someone who has lived through unpredictability and learned that controlling outcomes equals safety. By making everyone else comfortable, they create a buffer between themselves and potential harm. But in adulthood, this turns into a pattern. You over-accommodate. You take responsibility for other people's emotions. You feel anxious when others are upset. You feel like a failure when someone is disappointed. You stretch yourself thin to avoid conflict. You overthink every interaction. This is not you being nice. This is trauma disguised as politeness. You never learned how to receive love. Giving came naturally. Receiving did not. People pleasers often feel uncomfortable when others compliment them, give them attention, do something kind for them, ask about their feelings, offer help, love them without conditions. Why? Because as a child, you were rewarded for performing, not for simply existing. So when kindness is directed at you, your nervous system interprets it as unfamiliar, even unsafe. Your mind whispers, "What do they want? Do I owe them something now? This feels strange. I'm not used to this." You can pour into others endlessly, but feel guilty receiving even a drop. This is because people-pleasing creates an emotional imbalance. You see others as deserving of care, and yourself as merely a tool for delivering it. You learned how to give love, but nobody taught you how to accept it. You mistake harmful relationships for normal ones. When you grow up around emotional neglect or inconsistency, you normalize it. You learn that your needs come last. Affection must be earned. Love is unstable. Boundaries are optional. Conflict means danger. So as an adult, the familiar feels safe, even when it's harmful. People pleasers often find themselves in one-sided friendships, emotionally draining relationships, being used by coworkers, overextending for partners who give little in return, attracting narcissistic or demanding people. It's not that you choose these relationships consciously. It's that your nervous system is drawn to what it recognizes, not what is healthy. Dysfunction feels familiar, and familiarity feels safe. This is the trap. Until you become aware of this pattern, you will continue giving too much to people who give too little. You don't know who you are without being useful. This is one of the deepest wounds. When no one protected you, you learned to define yourself through service. Helping became your identity. Pleasing became your role. You became the emotional support system for others because nobody was that for you. So now when someone says, "Tell me what you want," you freeze. When someone asks, "What are your boundaries?" you don't know how to answer. Because nobody taught you that you were allowed to have these things. You were taught to be convenient, agreeable, accommodating. You learned to disappear so others could remain comfortable. And now, you fear that if you stop being useful, you will lose the people around you. You fear that without your emotional labor, you will not be wanted. But here is the truth. People-pleasing does not create love. It creates dependency. People love what you do, not who you are. And that leaves you emotionally starved. You carry the weight of abandonment. At the core of the people-pleaser trap is one wound. You were abandoned emotionally or in more subtle ways, and nobody acknowledged your pain. You learned to survive by erasing yourself. You learned to cope by anticipating others. You learned to stay safe by disappearing emotionally. And this abandonment became the foundation of your identity. But let's be clear. You did not become a people pleaser out of weakness. You became one out of necessity. You adapted. You protected yourself the only way you knew how. You survived. Your people pleasing was an act of resilience, not fragility. But the survival strategy that saved you as a child is now harming you as an adult. The path out of the trap. Healing from people-pleasing is not about becoming selfish. It is about becoming whole. It is about reclaiming the pieces of yourself you abandoned to survive. Here is what healing looks like. You learn to tolerate disappointing others. First, it will feel wrong. Your body will panic. But boundaries are built on the courage to endure discomfort. You learn that your emotions are valid. Nobody needs to approve your feelings. They are your internal truth. You learn that love does not have to be earned. Healthy people love you for your presence, not your performance. You learn that saying no is not cruelty. It is self-respect. You learn to rest without guilt. Your worth is not measured by your productivity. You learn to ask for what you need, not as a favor but as a right. You learn that conflict is not danger. It is clarity. You learn that you are not responsible for everyone else. Their emotions are not your job. You learn who you are when you stop performing. And that person, your authentic self, is the one who deserved protection from the beginning. A final truth. You should have been protected. If nobody ever told you this before, let this be the first time. You should not have had to earn love. You should not have been the caretaker. You should not have been blamed for your emotions. You should not have felt responsible for everyone else. You should not have learned to disappear to keep the peace. You should not have been afraid to be yourself. You should have been protected. You should have been allowed to be a child. You should have felt safe. And none of that was your fault. But now, as an adult, the responsibility shifts, not to blame you but to empower you. No one else is coming to rescue the child inside you. No one else can undo the patterns. No one else can give you the protection you never had. That task now is yours. And you are strong enough. You have always been strong. You just used your strength to serve others instead of yourself. Now it's time to redirect that strength inward. You deserved protection. You deserved love. You deserved safety. And you deserve to stop abandoning yourself.